Hi guys, I just did this video and it took me 27 minutes, so I'm going to try and make this the mini version. This is a projection to September the 13th. This over here you're looking at is Hurricane Florence. Hurricane Florence means to flower or to blossom. Down here we have a hurricane which has evolved into a tropical storm. This is called Hurricane Helene. Helene means torch or light, something in association with illumination. So again, we have this whole reference with all the names that we've looked at so far, being crown, ruler of the army, wished for child, sea of bitterness, the man from the north, peace, flowering or blossoming, onto Helene, which means light, torch, or bright. Behind Helene, there's Hurricane Isaac. That one, I'm not going to really talk about it, just kind of dissipates up here, so it's not really of any significance to me. It's a biblical name, but it doesn't join on to any of the other names in terms of meaning. So I think by September the 15th, this is when between now and then, we're going to see some pretty stark events take place, and I think some things are already taking place that are leading up to this event. Well, they have been happening all year, but really now, a lot of things, especially politically, are starting to unravel in such a way that it looks like some other things are going to be needed in order to maybe distract from that. It's all part of the plan anyway, so really it's just unfolding before us while we're trying to actually get ahead of it, to know the story before it finishes, basically. The Hurricane Florence, as I said, is potentially going to be a Category 5. It could stay just below Category 5 in the Category 4 region. If so, that would be a good thing, much less damage. But Category 4 is not insignificant, and it does look like through the 13th, through the 14th, it's actually going to be making landfall, whether it's actually at New York, where this model is actually projecting it to go, or whether that's somewhere else along the East Coast. It does look like it's actually going to the East Coast, may make landfall on the East Coast, and kind of sweeps up the East Coast through the 13th, 14th, and 15th, and sort of a little bit back out into the Atlantic by the 16th, but still very close to New York. And considering the temperatures of the water around New York are quite high, 29, 27, could possibly reach into the 30-degree time by that, by the time Hurricane Florence gets there. That's fuel for the hurricane, so it could potentially intensify again once it's come off land and back into the ocean. So that's why I keep talking about Hurricane Florence, because it is seeming more and more significant, especially considering its name associated with the other hurricanes and where it's tracking, its intensity and speed. It's very significant. Joined on with Helene, light, torch, and bright, it made me think of this scene here in the iPad Goat video. We clearly have a swelling pattern in the sky which appears to reference a hurricane. We've got the torch, which is lit up, a light on the torch, and we also have the Statue of Liberty, which appears to represent New York. If that isn't the closest interpretation to what's going on or unfolding in terms of hurricanes I can see, then I don't really know what to say, because that's Hurricane Florence, to blossom or to flower. That's New York. Statue of Liberty is representing that. Here's Hurricane Helene, meaning torch or light. The two of them together, including the location, it's very possible that this is exactly what the iPad Go 2 video is conveying. Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Helene, and New York all at the same time. The torch itself could also be a double meaning historically, because in 1916, July 30th, America had pretty much stayed neutral throughout the process of World War I. But when Europeans and the British blockaded German ports, America became a de facto munition supplier to Great Britain and its allies. In an attempt to cut off this supply line, the Germans sabotaged a man-made island in New York Harbor known as Black Tom Island. This is a munitions storage site, According to Wikipedia, fragments from the resulting explosion, equivalent to an earthquake measuring 5 to 5.5 on the Richter scale, lodged in the Statue of Liberty, and windows as far as 25 miles were broken. 4 people died and hundreds more were injured. As for Lady Liberty, her right arm leading to the torch was hit hard by the blast, and fixing it fully proved impossible. Access to the torch has been closed to the public ever since. So it could be that during this hurricane, something similar to the events of 1916 in terms of a bomb being placed somewhere could happen. Now that could happen at the Statue of Liberty, or it could be that this animated depiction of the torch being broken is just a reference to 1916 when there was a bomb in New York. So not 100% sure on the interpretation or translation there, but I am pretty confident that the interpretation has significance. Florence, torch, New York. So with that in mind, let's move on to the next part of the iPad video I want to talk about, which is this part here. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I'm sorry, I can't make it big for some reason. It keeps just going blank. This figure here, I've talked about before. It's the 8th figure, and I've talked about that in association with August, mainly because George Bush says August when you reverse the video. But putting that aside, we've also got the 8th lunar month and the 2nd lunar day, which J.K. Bugger has talked about, and that is September the 11th. I don't know if this is going to come off either. My computer is acting very funny today, having to work with some... Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys, but if you want to go to the lunar calendar, you can look at the 8th lunar month and the 2nd lunar day, and you'll see that it's 9/11. Now, if this character represents 9/11, it's possible that the other characters represent dates as well. So, bearing that in mind, if that's true, then this would be September the 4th. This figure appears to be head resting on hands, lying on the front. That's typically a watching TV position. On September the 4th is when the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court nomination started, and that was widely televised, highly contentious, talked about a lot. So it's possible that this figure is representing people being glued to the TV or watching the TV. The next figure would be the 5th of September, and then he's got the stag or the deer with the flames, heat or fire attached to it. So bearing that in mind, I thought, let me have a look at the symbolization of stag, and it means to, well, it represents sensitivity, intuition, gentleness, symbolizes harmony, happiness, peace and longevity. Bearing all those different meanings in mind, if we attach that to the flames and the fact that the stag is leaping up, one interpretation could be sensitivity, intuition, gentleness, harmony, happiness, peace, and or longevity up in flames. Now, that may or may not be connected to the events that transpired on the 5th of September in relation to the New York Times op-ed, the anonymous editorial, which was written by a senior administration official condemning the Trump administration for its handling of the country. Widely talked about. I'm sure every one of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, something like that, maybe in association with Donald Trump, could be happiness, peace, gentleness, sensitivity going up in flames. That's it. He's done. So what's next? Well, if this figure represents September the 6th and also represents Donald Trump with the hands and the between the legs in the upside down triangle position, then that would maybe suggest that something in association with Donald Trump on the 6th of September. Now, it's very hard to pinpoint something particular in association with Donald Trump on any particular day because they're always talking about him and he's always, according to them, doing something newsworthy or significant in that way. But thinking about the M, I thought, okay, let me look into Donald Trump's schedule, see if he's I don't know, doing anything 6th of September. He is going to be staying at the Doubletree Hilton in Montana after he's had his rally there, his Make America Great Again rally, or MAGA rally. And he will be getting there about 10 past 10 p.m. So obviously he'll be staying there overnight. Now it's obviously interesting because the shape that the Donald Trump figure makes in this video is an M, which could stand for Mar-a-Lago, as we've interpreted before. It could also stand for Montana, or a number of M's. But considering that there may be a possible connection to September the 11th with this character here, which may mean that the other characters are corresponding dates, then 6th of September, an M, Montana, possible significance. The M upside down is also a W, which is the 23rd of the alphabet. 23 is the 24th format of the number 11, which again would be 50 minutes thereabout after Donald Trump arrives at the Doubletree Hilton, Billings, Montana. The Doubletree Billings Hilton in Montana is, I don't know why all my pages are doing this, is basically on 27th Avenue. And obviously that's significant, particularly to me, because of all the interpretations that I've done where the number 27 or the number 27 has played a particular role. It may not be a date role. It could be a road or location role. This I can't be entirely sure of. I'm just trying to zoom in to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So I did have this all prepared, but as you saw, it was frozen. So you can see we've got the North 27th Street, which is just off of Doubletree by Hilton Hotels Billings, 6th of September, Montana. The day is yet to move over to the 7th over on the United States, so there's a couple of hours left. Not long to see if there's any connections to Donald Trump in Montana, or 11. We'll see if anything happens. But moving on from that, if anything connected with Donald Trump does happen today, we've got the next day, which would be the 7th. That may be emphasized by the number 7 possibly being highlighted down here in this lighter color. Not sure if you can see it on your screens. You may need to switch to a higher definition video or use a high definition device to see it. But there is the number 7 down here, and that could be the 7th character, which would be in line. If this is September the 11th, then this would be September the 7th. I don't really know what the scratching on the face means. It could be that there's words or something contained within those scratches. I haven't really taken much time to look into it too much, but it could just be confusion. I'm not sure. But if this figure then represents the 8th and this represents the 9th, we have the bandages, and at this point onto the 9th, it appears the bandages may be removed, could be stitches in its place. We then come to what would be the 10th, and again we have this hands resting on hands position, except this time seated, which again could be watching the TV, maybe in connection with events that have transpired the days before. We get to September the 11th, and that may be a reference to go underground, with the rabbit looking directly at this figure here. Obviously rabbits are underground creatures, tunnels, burrows. They have lots of bunkers and stuff around the United States and around the world, ready to go to in the event of nuclear war, which they have been planning for a long time. You don't build nuclear weapons for no reason. They do intend to use them. They say it's for deterrence, but that's why they need characters like North Korea and Iran to be unresponsible nuclear actors, so that nuclear war can ensue from that. It's all very convoluted and evil, but that's the way they work. Again, if this is September 11th, the F I've interpreted as Friday could represent Florence in terms of Hurricane Florence. The reason I say that is because the F loops up and comes round and lands on what would be September the 13th character, September the 11th, September the 12th, September the 13th. And we know that on September the 13th is when Hurricane Florence is going to be at New York. This is 1 o'clock in the morning. Let's skip to 10 o'clock at night. So yeah, on the 13th is when Hurricane Florence is going to be on New York, or on the East Coast. Again, the model could change, but as I've been watching it day after day, it's shifted very little. Back to the dates here, if that is the 13th, then that'll be the 14th. And it appears there's some connection with the 13th to the 14th here. And I think the 14th and the 15th, which may be emphasized by what could be the number 15 with the leaves back here. Nuclear explosions, 14th and 15th. Atmospheric, underwater. That is my interpretation. Those are my translations. The key really to the point, I mean, I still wouldn't discount September the 11th or September the 13th or September the 15th, or that date range from the 9th to the 15th, if nothing happens in association with Donald Trump. American time on the 6th, UK time on the 7th. I wouldn't discount the other interpretations that have been laid out from here onwards. But I do find it interesting. I do find it interesting. This could be all kind of political. Watching Brett Kavanaugh nomination, the New York op-ed, peace and everything in the White House up in flames. Donald Trump in Montana, maybe something in association with him happening there. I already talked about what I think is going to happen with him, but I just don't like saying it over and over again. So you guys already know what I think on that subject. The 7th, I really don't know. Seems to be something, it's just confusing. That's all I can think about with these scratches on the face. The 8th, bandages, maybe if something is connected to Donald Trump, which I'm not going to say, maybe in recovery, bandages, maybe better recovery, stitches, people watching, waiting on the 10th, the 11th, I don't know, maybe it comes out, or maybe something symbolic happens on that day as well, but maybe a reference to underground, to these people that this message is meant to be for. The 12th, just waiting. The 13th, Hurricane Florence comes in. The 14th, EMP. The 15th, underwater nuclear detonation. Tsunami situation. And that's just all kind of focusing on the United States. That's not even focusing on the 50th state of the United States, which is Hawaii, which still has significance in terms of Kilauea and all the things going on there. That doesn't factor in all the things that would be going on in the Middle East at that time, in Syria, with Idlib and Damascus, and with Israel and Iran. That doesn't factor in North Korea and China. It doesn't factor in the collapse of the financial market. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening at the same time as all these other things are happening. But I think I just wanted to lay out a clear reference to what I think is Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Helene, and Hurricane Olivia, peace blossoming, torch light bearer, New York Statue of Liberty, hurricane going on, some sort of explosion or terrorist attack, I don't know. We'll see. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.